The Pod Bay Door, a Las Vegas podcast. I'm going to do it this way and never change.
Yeah, you can only dress up an old horse so much. You know, really. I mean, that's it.
Was that whore or horse, John?
Yeah, horse. I meant horse. I meant horse, Jamie. It's still an old plug.
I hope that there's a new crowd coming. You know, a savvy crowd, a crowd that understands how Vegas works, and a crowd that maybe is going to tell Vegas how she should change. Is Las Vegas going to survive this? Should it?
Yeah.
And you know, what do we see coming? You know, as far as changes. It's a very interesting subject, and yeah, I definitely wanted to talk to you about that today. Plus, what else do I have? We've got information about downtown. I have some. I don't believe we've ever talked about the oldest casino in town.
No,
it's an arguable fact, but we'll talk about that and some other little tidbits about that particular property. And the COVID and millennials. We started the millennial marketing here in the old Vegas, and you and I felt it was not long for this town, because the millennials aren't either.
I wonder if they should have a promotion for Las Vegas. I mean, they're always thinking ahead.
Yeah.
If you stay for book 3 nights and you get a free vaccine.
Oh,
well,
my.
I know you need 2 shots, but maybe I don't know how far apart they have to be.
I'm not sure. And I had read an article recently about somebody asked a very good question. Can you take the one virus shot and then get the other company's shot as your second shot?
Oh, that's interesting.
And doctors are saying they wouldn't recommend it. But they said essentially it's the same, so it's not going to hurt you.
Yeah, I know that the Moderna vaccine is more practical. It doesn't need to be kept at such low temperatures.
Right.
It's supposed to be more effective. But Moderna is a new company. Basically, they have not had a product before. Right. They've been doing mostly things like I think DNA, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And again, you look at Pfizer, and they're just they're huge, so it's not surprising that theirs got through, even though Moderna's might be better. It might be a Betamax VHS sort of rivalry. Who knows?
I don't know who to trust, but they're out
there. As long as they work,
yeah,
right?
They're
That's
out
the
there.
whole thing. And see, so here's my idea. And then you give a free COVID vaccine, and if you have a player's card, just like you get a cut in front of the line for the buffet, same thing.
I wouldn't put it past Vegas to do something like that.
Yeah.
And everything's perception now.
Yeah.
Everything's always perception, but especially now, and because it's so immediate, and I think actually if they were to institute something like that, I think it would be perceived well in the beginning.
Yeah.
As the trolls will come out of the caves again and find a problem with it. It's I don't know, self-serving, I guess, for Vegas. And of course it's self-serving. Vegas is dying. We are going to, do anything we can to bring some sort of stabilization back. I would support that, I think. It's kind of a strange a dichotomy. It's like, well, you come here and to get the vaccine, but coming here creates crowds, which is against what it's a terrible thing. To try to deal with. Good thing though. I think like I said, I'd support it. And
I'm only saying that half jokingly. I'm surprised they don't do something to get people here.
Yeah. I mean, and it's not like you have to be, administration of the shots doesn't have to be by physicians. In fact, it's not, because they can't, most of the physicians, facilities can't refrigerate.
Right. Not
in that level.
At that level.
Right. I know I recently looked it up, and our local grocery store, Vons, they're going to be doing it.
Yeah.
Because they absolutely can. And I get flu shots now, and it's done by the pharmacists. They do a great job. Who cares? Okay, so COVID's here.
Yeah.
It's here to stay, unfortunately. Right now it's really bad. But What happens when it leaves is my question to you, John. What changes do you think Vegas should make after COVID, whether it's COVID related or gambling related, or what changes do you think when we finally get the monkey off our back and have it controlled? What do you think Vegas should do to better itself at that point?
The hard part about it is, what Las Vegas has always been about, or when it's popular, are crowds. Whether they're here for a convention, CES, whatever, is crowds.
Right.
And the hotels, they keep building more rooms. Why? Because there are a lot of people here, right? And it's more crowds. So it's hard to, on the one hand, turn away crowds because now you're turning away business, right? It seems to me that there are certain things that will, I think some of the hygiene protocols, the sneeze guards or whatever, that those should stay, because even if it's not COVID, it's something else.
I agree.
And just the spray bottles and clean things, particularly in wintertime.
Yeah.
The weather here is very mild compared to many other places in the country, but hey, it's still susceptible to colds and flus, which,
right.
That's part of the, I can't think of a time, Christmas time even, with family members that I know that had kids, where some kid did not get sick with the flu around Christmas every year. It might be the different kid, but it always happens. And then they infect somebody else. Right. So maybe it'll cut down on that.
And travel in general, I think, because you have several points in your travel itinerary that are weak points as far as getting sick. Airplanes, airports, and then your ultimate destination. And then what happens, now you and I, knock on wood, are standouts for this, but most people, they go home. What happens? They get a cold. They end up getting a cold. Usually they blame it on the change of climate. Like they go to Mexico and then they come back to New York and they say it's the climate. And not so much. That's not how we get sick. It's germs. But I totally agree with you. I think all cleaning, I think everything that they're doing would not only provide jobs, either extended jobs for those who are still working in casinos, or new jobs for people coming in after it's all over and everybody's back to work as normal. But it would keep it clean. You and I both know that they do an adequate job cleaning. Now, I'm not denigrating maids and all the services and everything else, but they are giant places. And corners are cut. So I absolutely think
because they're timed on how long it takes them to do a room, and it's ridiculous. I mean, think about flipping the mattresses they have to do and changing the sheets.
Absolutely,
I could never do it because I know how long it takes me to change sheets.
Right,
and I'd be fired the first day. You got to go faster than that.
Now, the other thing I have on my notes is reduce the number of buffets. I think the major houses should take a really cold, hard look at their buffets. And if it's a revenue generating situation, I totally understand that, especially when we come back, because they're all going to be wanting the money back. But I think everyone needs to take a hard look at it to see which ones really should stay. Circus, and some questionable ones, that have always been questionable. And and we've always said the M had a particularly spectacular buffet.
That's a good one.
They're good, but again, and I think it depends on volume, where they do in the volume. But, I really do. I think buffets are, it's incongruous to my latter to the reasonings here. In fact, I'll even bring it up. I said one of the things Vegas should do is reintroduce the loss leaders.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. We got rid of them. And buffets were the big one. I mean, you didn't have to hardly play at all. And the floor bosses would throw a couple of buffet tickets at you. And it was a nice thing. In
fact, that's what I liked when I read about Circa downtown, is they were bringing back the 99-cent shrimp cocktail.
Right.
Now they're not going to make any money on it. I don't care how cheap the shrimp that they get, but does it matter? No. That's the whole point. It's to get you in the house.
Yeah, bring back the giant dollar hot dogs and the shrimp cocktails and the throwing the buffets out of the pits and absolutely bring back and shows. Shows used to be loss leaders.
Yes, and there's so much greed that goes on. They don't realize, like they did in the past. You give them those loss leaders. You give them the 99-cent shrimp cocktail and the show and the cheap buffet. and then you fuck them someplace else, right? Usually it was at the gaming tables.
Yeah.
So people spent a lot of money. They just didn't, it wasn't where they thought they spent it.
Yes.
And what they remember was, oh, I got a steak. It was this big and I paid $3 for it or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they didn't say that you really, you subsidize that steak by losing $300 on the craps table.
And that's okay. It's not like there's a covering over it.
Yeah.
Vegas doesn't hide that.
Yeah.
They want you in. They want you playing.
Yep.
The other thing I said, keep the distance between the machines. I'm not a machine player. I'll play when a family member comes in every once in a while, but I like that.
Yeah.
Now that goes against the general mathematics of Vegas. They want every square foot, with something that's making money. But quite honestly, it was nicer. The plexiglass is a little sterile, and when COVID is gone, it might, it's a little odd.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the distance was nice. You didn't have the 4,000-year-old, broad rolling around the oxygen tank hacking on you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And smoking is still prevalent here. I can't imagine it.
Yeah.
I can't. I still look at people that are smoking a real cigarette, and I just look at them like, it's
another
2020.
thing that might change society-wise, not just Las Vegas.
Yeah.
I was thinking at certain times of year, like they do in Japan, is people wearing masks. Mm-hmm. Because I know when I first saw it in Japan, when I first went there, and I hear people even today say, oh, I hear they always do it in Japan. They do it in the wintertime. They don't do it all year round. It's not something that they did. They do it now because of COVID. But before that, it was the cold and flu season. Whenever that is, that's when you started seeing masks.
Yeah.
And people who wore them were people that were sick. And so they wore the mask and they looked funny. Oh, you going into surgery? Ha ha. To us, I'd never seen it like that. Sure. Unless you were spray painting something, you didn't wear a mask.
Yeah.
So maybe that's something that'll just, because, what's funny, I was watching the news the other day, local news, and they have a news reporter, a new one. And I realized I've never seen this woman without a mask on because she started since COVID. Mm-hmm. So I thought it'll be interesting to see, I wonder what she looks like under her mask. I only see her eyes. Almost reminds me of being in Dubai when I saw the Muslim women, they're all covered up and I only see their eyes. I was wondering what they really look like underneath that.
Yeah. I can't think of anybody. I've always seen her. But that's interesting. Yeah. That's interesting.
And the other thing I like about wearing the mask, like I go, is that, usually, I go out, oh, well, shit, I got to shave. I don't have to shave when I wear a mask. Nobody knows. I don't look like a bum.
Exactly. Now, the next thing I had on my list, it was sort of a connected.
Yeah.
Reduce welcome the crowds slowly. Vegas has a tendency to okay, COVID's over, let's have the million people back.
Yeah, here's the pool's open.
Yeah, the pool's open, everything else. No, but at the same time, I think that Vegas, it would behoove all of the casinos, all of the hotels, to lower the rates, lower the table limits, and let people come back. We don't really know what crowd is going to come back.
Yeah.
There was at the beginning of and in the middle of COVID, there was the discount crowd.
Yeah.
They were rubbing a couple of nickels together just to get here.
Yeah.
And in the 90s, it was a pretty high end family crowd.
Yeah.
Had a lot of money, and still the whales came. So we don't know what kind of crowd is going to come back.
Yeah.
It's not like Disney. Disney makes a whole lot of money in a whole different manner.
Yeah.
So it's very, but do it slowly, but lower the rates.
Yeah.
Don't go with the typical economic, decision of okay, well, we're expecting very few crowds, so let's raise the rates to the roof.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Lower the rates. Let people go home and say, oh my gosh. I had a giant steak, a free shrimp cocktail, and the room was only this much.
Yeah, and they bring somebody else back.
Exactly. Or they come back multiple times.
Yeah, yeah. It was the spirit of what you still see it, but only downtown. The grind joint, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't like, we're gonna charge you an arm and a leg for everything. Yeah. No, we're just gonna slowly whittle you down.
Right.
Right?
Right.
That was the way it is. The nickel slot machine. How many nickels did you put in there? I don't remember.
Right. Exactly.
You forget, you'll lose track.
Right.
It's funny in Japan, when I went over to Japan first time, and I just out of college. So one thing I was really experienced at was drinking.
Yes.
And I knew what my limit was. At that time, you realize, well, if I can have these 3 beers, and if I've had it within an hour, I better slow down or I'm going to be piss drunk.
Right.
But in Japan, what they did is they brought out a big bottle of beer. And it would be like an 18-ounce big bottle of beer. I mean, okay. But then they give everybody a little orange juice glass. And everybody pours. You can't pour your own. You got to pour and you drink it. Well, it's really hard to count at first when you have to adjust. How many of those little glasses did I drink? Because you lose track of it. Oh, I can't drink. Oh, how many are in the bottle? You know, right. And then you realize, and they're always keeping it full. That's the other thing. And that's the whole thing. You're always looking around. Oh, you're drinking here. I'll fill it up for you. So it's bottomless. You don't know how much you drank. Right. And all of a sudden, until you peel yourself off the floor. And so you have to adjust to that and say, I'm going to nurse this son of a bitch. And then they kind of lose, you know, you got to drink that. Yeah. So that's kind of like how the grind joints worked, right? You didn't know how much now it's different, right? People say, I paid this much money for that. Yeah. You know, a buffet that's $52. You know exactly how much you paid for it. Instead of saying, I paid 99 cents for the shrimp cocktail and I lost. How much did you lose on the tables? Oh, I don't remember.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's kind of like that. It's kind of like the free drinks. Now, obviously, part of my list was bring the drinks back.
Free drinks.
You know, it keeps the servers busy and on the clock and working, and we need more of them. But you know, sliding people now $15, you know, for one drink.
Yeah, and even you know, even locally, you know, there's a dump over here. You know, the Fiesta Henderson.
Yes,
it's a dump. I mean, it's an old dump. It's a local dump.
It's not great. Yeah,
it's not great, but it's got a kind of a flavor of that old thing. And anyhow, I used to meet a friend there because he lived right around. He could walk there if he got too drunk.
Right.
And we go, I'll meet you in the sports book, and we'll have a beer or two. All right. So we go in there, and there's not very many people at the sports book. And the last couple of times we went, which obviously been more than a year ago since they closed, and they're still not open. They won't even consider opening till July of 2021. And the cocktail waitress comes over and says, "Are you going to be placing a bet? Right? Are you going to be playing?" And we said no. They said, "Well, then you're going to have to fetch your own beer at the bar, because I can only serve people who are betting, even though there's like 3 people in the sports book."
Right.
So, okay, fine. And we've got to get up and she loses out on money too, right? We give her a tip, which now I'm giving to the bartender.
Yeah, rest assured, the servers don't want to make that statement.
No.
It's awkward.
Yeah.
You know, it makes, it's very unwelcoming.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like, well, if you're not going to do that, you know, leave.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of how it sounds.
Yeah.
So hopefully that'll change.
Yeah.
And the last thing I had is support the shows.
Yeah.
You know, all those hardworking people, I mean, they're suffering.
Yeah.
They tried to get back, and they capacity went up, capacity went down, and then the whole thing got closed up again, and they tried to open it up again. But I hope that the casinos do support the shows, because I don't think the crowd, whatever iteration of crowd comes back, I don't think they are going to be predominantly gamblers. I really don't. I think it's going to be a balanced customer. I think it's going to be a little bit of gambling and a little bit of food and a show and a little bit of walking around. And I think it's just going to be the overall general knowledgeable Vegas crowd. And then, of course, with a couple of, you know, little spikes here and there. There's going to be the gamblers that come here. That's all they do.
Yeah.
You know. And then there's going to be the drinkers and the partiers and everything else. The clubs, I don't know. I've been in my share of clubs, many clubs, and they're okay.
Yeah.
You know, they're great for the younger crowd. They're great for, you know, people that are coming here on single trips, whether a group or otherwise. But it remains to be seen how they're going to do. I mean, Hakkasan and the Marquee and all those giant clubs that were so good now have no guts under them. You know, they don't know what to do, and it's a very strange thing in town, because they sort of became the top dogs.
Yeah,
it's where people went, and they controlled everything. And it's just like, well, I'm going to go to Hakkasan at the MGM, and that's, they planned a whole trip around it. Now it's so much different.
Yeah, and just the thought of it. I mean, just going back, realizing that if there's one thing that any of the clubs, you know, you don't associate with, you're not going to, is social distancing.
Yeah, right.
Everybody is on top of each other.
Yes.
You know, it's crowded. There's that body heat. There's sweat. You don't know, is that my sweaters or somebody else's?
Right.
You know, because you're quite literally, when they say rubbing shoulders, you know, rubbing with the stars, you're rubbing shoulders with somebody.
Right.
It might be some nasty pig, you know, but nevertheless, it's just crowded.
Yeah.
And if the same thing with the pools,
Right.
with the popular ones like Mandalay Bay.
Yeah.
When you go there, it's just a lot of people in there.
Yeah.
Or the festivals, the music festivals.
So continuing with our year-end wrap-up here, let's talk about downtown.
Yeah.
Now, I think you and I are on the same page as far as downtown. I'm a little more defeatist when it comes to talking about downtown. And my question to you is, will it survive this latest, stomach shot from COVID? Do you think so? As a whole, I mean, obviously we're going to have little, again, spikes but I mean, with the new thing, with Circa and everything else, do you think it will survive as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, they have a different clientele. I know that they appeal a lot to Hawaiians. I had read that. So we know that Hawaii has very strict COVID regulations. You have to have a clean negative COVID test just to get in it. And hey, that's not international for us, right? I mean, it's part of our country. No other state that I know of does that, where if you're flying from wherever you're at to a point A into point B on the continental 40 or the lower 48,
right?
Do you need to get a COVID test before you get on the plane?
Right.
Except for Hawaii. So they're doing, they're going to try to keep it away. So I would think that at least for that clientele, they'll come back, because it's popular for them. It's a popular destination.
Yeah.
When you are an island like that, there really isn't. I mean, what else are you going to do, right? In terms of I want to get away. Well, California, yeah, and look how bad California is. So,
I
do you think it will?
I will. I do, because it has outlasted several large problem areas. That Vegas has either been involved with or produced itself. The crash and COVID and so on and so forth.
Because they have hotels there that are far older than most of the hotels on the Strip, right?
Yes.
I mean, sure, you got the older ones on the Strip, the Flamingo, the Tropicana will rival that, but the Golden Nugget, the Four Queens, I mean, I can't imagine those going out of business or anything.
No, I think my general opinion is that it will survive because A, it always has, but B, it just isn't going to change. It's going to stay exactly the same.
Yeah.
No matter what nuances they put in, and hey, good luck to Circa. They're going to do a great job, I'm sure, but it's going to stay the same as a whole.
Yeah.
It's discount. It's affordable. It's
the target of, and that's it. I mean, Target's not going to go out of business, right? I mean, it's usually the higher end stores. When you think back to, go back 30 years to the stores that were really popular, they had Joseph Magnin. They had I Magnin. Remember, those were department stores. Those were upper scale department stores. Yeah. They're gone now, right? I mean, Joseph Magnin was for younger women. I Magnin was for older women. They're gone because that strata is, so you're always going to find the ones that are the very, very top.
Right.
Those stores are always going to be around because the 1% people have money and they always will. But it's that lower part, it keeps getting bigger and bigger, right? Yes. The people that really don't have very much. And I think the Strip really appeals to, because they keep increasing their prices and everything has gone from middle class to upper middle class to really to come here and spend a weekend and
it's a pricey trip.
It's a pricey trip unless you go downtown.
Right. And when LA finally repairs itself, and there, but for the grace of God, go Las Vegas. I mean, LA is in tatters, but when they repair themselves, they are who populate Vegas most of the time.
Yeah.
Especially for, they're here in between the vacation periods. And that's what they do. They come, they go on the Strip and see all the fun stuff, all the new stuff. They take a walk, they see all the great casinos and facades, and then to gamble and eat, they go downtown.
Yeah.
So that's why I think it's gonna stay the same. It's never gonna improve. Now that's the only negative thing I have to say. It will never improve. It will just it maintain the status quo, which is fine and good. It's what we expect from downtown.
Yeah.
It should never change. I know Tony Hsieh, God rest his soul.
Yeah, that was unfortunate.
Yeah. He tried. he tried to infuse money and ideas and creativity. And unfortunately, the void that is downtown sucked it up and said, "No, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do it this way and never change."
Yeah, you can only dress up an old horse so much. Really. I mean, that's it.
Was that whore or horse, John?
Yeah, horse. I meant horse. Jamie. It's still an old plug. Put him out to pasture.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, I've met Tony Hsieh. I actually photographed for him at his old facility when Amazon was at a different place.
Yeah.
Or Zappos, I mean.
Yeah.
And very shocked. I still don't think we know the whole story.
No.
Very strange.
No, it's. I know that there were people saying he had drug problems.
Yeah.
And I don't know what causes a fire. I mean, it almost sounds suicidal.
Yeah, it really did, does. And it just, he was a very respected person. He was a pioneer as far as the inner workings of corporate life. I don't know, a lot of people don't believe in, running a business like that, but it worked for him and his people. I have a person that works for and with me. His son-in-law actually works for Zappos now, and it's still the same. It's that run the same. But yeah, very sad.
One of the things that he did is he bought, I forget which one it was, but he bought an old hotel in downtown and he converted it into units, low cost units for the people who work there.
Right.
And that's something that they do in Japan. They have dormitories for usually single, people just out of college, and if they're away from home, meaning that they're from the country and living in Tokyo, and Tokyo is very expensive. It's a reasonably priced place to live.
Right.
And that's owned by the company that they work for.
Right.
And then usually it was in the old days of Japan, it was lifetime employment. As they worked their way up, they moved out of the dormitory, got their own place.
Yeah.
So to hear that here is unusual.
It is.
But for him being an Asian man, I'm sure some of that probably was, I mean, he wasn't Japanese, but still it's that part of that Asian mindset that I see in their culture. The other things, still in Japan is common, is that they always pay your transportation costs. So even if you live 20 miles and you're taking a train or you're driving a car, whatever it costs,
sure,
you're reimbursed.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something here. You're on your own. So people that were commuting, and when the gas prices went from 99 cents to $3, right. At the turn, in 2000 and whatever, that really put an economic hurt on people too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so that's really sad.
Well, earlier you had mentioned the oldest casinos, and I bet you don't know.
No, I probably don't.
What is the oldest casino? It's actually it's not a tie.
Yeah.
But it's arguable. There's a lot of people that say it's one and not the other, and so on and so forth. But do you have a guess?
No. I only know the older hotels like the El Commode.
Yes. El Commode is part of the whole equation.
Yeah.
Technically speaking, and I tend to agree that the Golden Gate,
which
is on Fremont Street, it's downtown, across near Union Plaza.
Yep.
And it was established in 1906. Now, they saw fit to ban gambling in 1909. And therefore, the Golden Gate only it maintained its hotel status, but didn't open for gaming again until 1931, which causes the argument that we call it the El Commode here, affectionately, but it's the El Cortez. The El Cortez is older, which is not the case. It was a gambling.
When did the El Cortez open? It was in 1920 something.
1926, I believe.
Yeah.
But the Golden Gate, modeled, of course, after San Francisco, halls like that. But it also is the first for two other things in Nevada. It was the first lodging to have plumbing.
Oh.
And it was the first lodging facility to have a telephone and therefore a telephone number.
Wow.
Yeah, right?
Well, I wonder if it's the same one.
Probably. Back in the day, it was originally called the Hotel Nevada. Very briefly, because there was an ownership change, it was called the Miller Hotel.
Oh,
yeah,
really?
Yeah,
interesting. I didn't know that.
The Golden Gate. It was as I said, it was it's on Fremont Street near the Union Plaza. Back in the day, it was the Union Plaza. Of course, was the railroad location, and it was right across the street from the railroad. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny how those name changes go. Remember, there used to be the Golden Slipper and the Silver Slipper.
Silver Slipper, yeah.
And Bob Stupak owned one of them. I think he owned the Silver Slipper. And then he bought the Golden Slipper. But what he did was he renamed the Silver Slipper the Golden Slipper.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So he really confused things.
Well, and there's also the one with the Binion's Horseshoe, of course, owned by Benny Binion. And he opened the horseshoe next to the Mint.
Yeah.
And then combine them, and there's actually a little bitty pathway that in the back of the house or the rear of the underside of the building, where you cross over from the Binion's Horseshoe to what is used to be the old Mint.
Oh.
And it's kind of a scary little pathway, but it's like loading dock and trash receptacles. But so you're right about the names.
Yeah, and the same, even on the Strip, right? You have Bally's, which used to be the MGM.
MGM, yeah.
Before the fire, then MGM said, "Oh shit, we don't want to have anything to do with this place."
I know. Right?
Let's sell it to Bally's and move down the street, open a new one.
Yeah, lots of changes. I mean, Cromwell used to be the Barbary Coast.
Yep.
And I loved it when it was the Barbary Coast.
I did too.
Yeah, because I played Pie Gal Poker.
Yeah.
And if you're a broke kid coming here for the first time, with $20 you can play Pie Gal for about 3 days.
Yeah, and I always said if I could have any hotel on the Strip, it would have been the Barbary Coast. Oh, what do you want? I said it's a cash cow because it's paid for. It's got a great location.
Oh yeah.
And it doesn't. There's no pretensions about it. It's a really good name for that. What it is? It was a dump of Barbary Coast. Yeah. Now the Cromwell. That is just so pretentious.
It is, and they brought in
Giada.
The chef Giada.
Yeah.
It's
you ever seen her cooking show?
I have not.
No, there was
seen her.
Yes,
she's cute.
She's cute, and and here's the thing about her. I bet you she's evil. And here's why I say that. They used to put her show on. When I used to take my kid to the orthodontist, right? They had a TV in there because there was all. So that's the show they would have on there, and I watched it. I said, "Wow, here she is. She's making some cake with gobs and gobs of cream and butter in it, but she never eats it herself."
Yes,
she's always saying, "Here, sweetheart, you eat it, bitch. You get fat. I'm going to stay skinny and thin and look hot.
That's right.
But you eat it, so so you get a big ass." I think that's what it is. I see what you're doing. Which reminds me also, because I know you have. I mean, you have Disney. Right, you have the Disney Plus.
I have Disney Plus. Yes, I got the triple Disney Plus, Hulu, and ESPN Plus.
So what I wondered was, I was reading something, Yahoo News, Kim Kardashian. I usually don't read that stuff.
Yes.
But anyhow, they said her show. I didn't even know. I'd never seen it, but of course I've heard of Keeping Up with the Kardashians.
Yes.
Because of course it has to be alliterative. Everything with the K in it. With all the girls has K name. Okay. But anyhow, I heard that her show is off of, I guess it was the E Network. And they said, I was really, she's going to have a new one on Disney. And I thought, really? I thought, I don't know. Have you? What do they call it? Big tits and ass?
Not on Disney.
Next on the House of Mouse, right?
Not on
for
the Mouse.
You dads.
I didn't hear that, so that's a new one for me.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I'm not sure who they're going for. I mean, Disney hit hard and heavy, with Disney Plus.
Yeah.
And perfect timing too, because it's taking the weight from the parks. With all the Nerd Nation stuff, they've got everything, including National Geographic. So I don't know where she fits in, but Stranger Things.
Yeah. So if you do happen to see, I'm just curious what they're going to call it the show. That would be my suggestion.
Well, I will let you know. I will let you know in a future program, John. Now, speaking of Kim Kardashian and her fans,
and big tits and ass,
big tits and ass, are millennials. They're fans of the Keeping Up with the Crowd there.
Yeah.
Do you think COVID is going to kill off the millennial marketing that began here in Vegas? Do you think the whole situation? So. You hope so.
Yeah, it just didn't fly. Really, it didn't because there's so many of the older crowd that they appeal to.
Right.
In the past, it used to come. They were the ones that spent money.
Yeah, it's true.
Like, if you think about it, even when we worked at the Venetian, when you had the real younger crowds, I mean, they wouldn't be I guess they would. Sure, they're still millennials, right? That were showing up for Comdex.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, this is great. They got a lot of money because they work in high tech. And you remember what they said? They show up wearing a white shirt and holding a $20 bill.
Right.
They're here for 3 days and they don't change either one of them.
Right.
Right? Because
Right.
they're nerds and they're eating pizza in the room.
Yeah.
And it's not even good
true.
pizza. Don't go fucking Domino's. Come on.
Yeah,
That's
right.
it. You got to be, I wouldn't give that to my dog.
No, it's very true. In fact, many of the groups did. I mean, the Cowboys, they spent all the money they could to get their gear and all their horses here.
Yeah.
They were broke.
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about the candlelight people and being banned, all the fast food joints being banned.
Because, those candlelight people and Amway, I mean, they're cult members, right? I mean, really, that's a business
Right,
cult.
right.
And the gurus, they live high off the hog. They're the ones that we're making the dinners for.
Right.
But they're a very small number. Everybody else was 6 to a room.
Right.
Right.
And they were too. It was so sad. I agree with you. I think the millennial thing I think it was a failed effort because of a couple reasons. One is, now I'm generalizing, and I know not all millennials are like this. I actually know some good ones. But the generalizations happen because a large number of your community act a certain way, and that's the way it is.
Yeah.
They're not able to self-affirm here. There's no creating channels. There's no having Instas. There's no, putting your picture on there and creating little dances on TikTok. There's nothing about Vegas that doubles as a self-affirmation.
Yeah.
You can't say, here's how wonderful I am, or here's how wonderful my friends are. Vegas is an entity all in and of itself that needs affirmation. Secondly, Vegas, I think, and this is where they were trying to change things, is digitally anonymous.
Yeah.
The only thing that Vegas exists on a digital plane is when people say, hey, look what I won. Check out this royal flush that I got.
Yeah.
And things of that nature. You really don't take pictures of the shows.
Yeah.
You don't take, I mean, there's foodies that take pictures of the food, which I really wish that would stop now. And rarely do you see celebrities and you take your Insta shots in front of the fountains and in front of this, but unlike Disney, we don't have Instagram walls. We don't have this. We don't have that.
Yeah.
So
and the Mickey Mouse that you see running around the strip is probably just puked.
Right. Exactly. It's Mickey Rat. Mickey Rat. So I think that, and plus the millennials, didn't have the disposable liquid cash that Vegas really demands.
Yeah.
They were like you described. They came here with a I don't know what. Let's be honest, a couple $100 after travel.
Yeah.
You knock out 2 nice meals, which millennials love to eat.
Yeah, that's the only thing they do.
And that's $100.
Yeah, because
easy.
we look at it. I remember I had a teacher in college. He was the linguist in the English department. And he just would say things just kind of out of the blue. He says, "You know what the most erotic word is in the English language? Titillation. Just think of the tongue, the way it moves on. Las Vegas is all about titillation."
Yes.
Right? I mean, what do you want to do? You want to get high on, you want to gamble? It's a vice. Do you want to get drunk? Do you want to get laid? What it is, come here. But the millennials, like you said, do they want to get drunk? No. Yeah. Do they want to get laid? No. Yeah. What do they want to do?
Yeah. How does this help my channel? How does this help my how many likes will I get?
Yeah. But the food, maybe so. Hey, I want to, just go to the Cheesecake Factory, take a picture of their cheesecake, put it online, you get 1,000 likes, right?
Yeah. For millennials, I think it's more like Vegas vacation. And when they went to the Grand Canyon, they drove all the way to the Grand Canyon, looked over the edge, and then got back in the car. Yeah. And I think for millennials, it's a lot like that because we don't have a lot of what they want and need. Yeah.
It reminded me also when I was in Japan, I was with some Japanese people, and Mr. John, we're going to go to Mount Fuji. You want to go? We're going to hike Mount Fuji. Well, I'm thinking they're going to go to the top. Really? You're going to go to Mount Fuji? Yeah, there's a trail. Well, what they meant was you can drive a car like 3/4 of the way up, right? Okay. And then get out, and then you walk the last 6 miles. Oh, they don't even want to do that. They walk about 10 minutes, and there's an observation point. We get a night, take a picture, get back in the car, and let's drive 3 hours back. So it's kind of the same thing,
There it is. So I just don't think. Again, I believe, and more so, I hope that there's a new crowd coming. A savvy crowd. A crowd that understands how Vegas works, and a crowd that maybe is going to tell Vegas how she should change.
Yeah.
You know,
free parking. Keep free parking.
Keep free parking. Yes.
Thank you, COVID, for that. Not much to thank you for.
Yes,
but
I agree. But I really do. I think the crowd. I'll be very interested to see this crowd, because this crowd is going to be the first comers to the new Vegas, to the Raiders, continuing support of the Golden Knights.
Yeah.
You know, what's this crowd going to be like? You know,
well, it's interesting. You know, even looking at the city of Oakland. The city of Oakland had 3 sports teams. They had the Raiders. They had the Warriors. Even though they were called Golden State Warriors, they played all their home games in Oakland. And they had the A's, and they lost the Raiders. They lost the Warriors. Warriors now play in San Francisco, which is where they originated from, but they play in San Francisco now.
Right.
And it's just interesting that because of COVID, the Warriors season was cut short. They finished with the worst record. But a lot of fans didn't get a chance to see them because they had and they also have a new arena. The Raider fans, they didn't get to see them. The whole season's over now. It means the home games are all over. So the only people that got in there to watch a football game watched the super shitty UNLV running Rebels that lost every game by 14 points or more. You know. So, and nobody wanted to see them anyway, which is why they didn't have to worry about social distancing.
True. Yeah, they had a down season, huh?
They had a down season even by their standards. And you just say, well, they almost won that game.
Yeah.
You know, that's almost as good as a win. No. They got their head handed to them every game.
We're more known for basketball.
And they should have just stuck at Sam Boyd Stadium.
I agree.
That's good enough for them. It's a Mountain West team.
Yeah.
Jesus, they don't need a 65,000.
And it's a nice place. It's a nice place.
Yeah, I like Sam Boyd. I saw a couple games there.
To commemorate our year-end wrap-up here, I got a couple of questions. This one's to, I think, both of us. Bob from Facebook. Are there any shows? I picked that one because it's an easy one. It's a softball. Are there shows? Yes. I'll give you an example of what happened with the shows. And I have friends within this particular show. And Absinthe.
Yes.
Wonderful show. Yeah, it's so fun, weird and wacky, and it's just weird.
It's just so nice to have something that's not Cirque du Soleil.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I mean, it's grotesque and strange and fun.
And Vegas.
And Vegas. Yeah, it's perfect. They were, in the very beginning when the shows were locked out, they were, pretty much suffering. I mean, they were dying. And then they opened up and they said, okay, we're going to open up 25% capacity and for shows this much and so on and so forth. And they were the first to come in. Boy, they were up. And then we had a brief moment of even more capacity. And so they were doing well. And then, of course, we had the boomerangs from whatever vacation, Thanksgiving.
And even the election even.
Yeah, and the election. And now we're going to see another one with Christmas and another one for New Year's.
Yeah.
Which reminds me, I'll bring something up before we're done here. And are there shows? They're trying. But they have to adhere to the guidelines laid out by our government. Our governor, his name is Sisolak, and he's not the bravest man in the world, but I think he's trying to protect us. But we'll see. But yes, there are shows, but right now, not so much, not really.
Yeah.
Regarding that, give me your thoughts on this. Downtown is having a New Year's celebration. Quoted by the RJ of upwards of 14,000 people are confirmed currently to attend. And
I heard they had to pay.
Yeah, they had to pay.
Yeah,
but and it's outside.
Yeah.
But that's not a great idea.
No. No.
I mean,
come next year.
I'm as much of a conspiracy nut as the next guy, and I think maybe COVID was a little blown out of proportion, but it's very problematic right now.
Yeah.
And having large group 14,000 New Year's revelers
and they're drinking.
They're going to be drinking.
They're not going to have their mask on.
No.
They'll have it on, pulled down around their chin, which is like getting in your car and not using the seatbelt.
Right.
Say,
right.
Well, it's there. Have a seatbelt.
Yeah, and so
put it on.
I'm glad you say that. It's not a great idea, and it's a foregone conclusion now. It's going to happen, but there's going to be another boomerang from that one.
Because all of those people are going to probably go somewhere else. A lot of them, and they're going to go back home.
They love to say super spreader, which I don't want to use the coined terms, but it's pretty much that's what it is.
Yeah, because you mentioned Los Angeles, where a lot of our people that visit here, a lot of them come from Southern California, including Los Angeles. They're experiencing one COVID death every 10 minutes.
Yes,
that's 144 a day.
That's not
and I saw that their infection rate is up 1,000% over what it was like November 1st or something.
And Arizona's getting bad where I have family, and it's just terrible. Okay, this one's to you, John. Mark said, John, are there casinos? I think you might have answered this. Like, oh gosh, what are we at? 127 episodes, about 100 episodes ago. But John, are there casinos in Japan? Are they like the Vegas ones? And this was for Mark from Twitter.
Oh, that's an interesting question. No, not currently in Japan. The Japanese government was going to issue licenses. In fact, I know the MGM bid on them. I think that they've actually bought one, and they're going to build a hotel because they're going to allow gambling in Tokyo. And part of that was to raise revenue to pay for the Olympics. So I spoke with somebody, it must have been 6-7 years ago, who was in the HR department at MGM. And it was telling me that they were planning to open in Japan as soon as they gave out gaming licenses to build in Japan. I didn't think it was a good idea because the Japanese are not the hardy gamblers that the Chinese are, for example. However, what they do have in Japan, of course, is pachinko.
Yes, that's what we've discussed before.
Yes, they do have pachinko, and they're all over the place, and they're very noisy.
Which is a money making.
Oh yeah, it's run by the Yakuza. Right? The way they get around it, because gambling is technically, and it's illegal in Japan, is that you get your bucket of balls, and then you play. And then if you win more balls, you turn them in for prizes.
I see.
See, so you get a carton of cigarettes.
Oh, I see.
Or something along those lines. So that's how they get around that, and then I think you can turn around and sell that prize back to the house for the money.
Now, for those who have no international experience, especially Japan, tell our audience here, what is a pachinko machine?
Pachinko would be the equivalent, would be the closest thing to a slot machine. It's a game. In the old days, they used to flip it with their thumb, and now they have a knob on it, and it swings a ball up into it's almost like a pinball, into a rack of pins. But whereas a pinball machine is horizontal, the pachinko machine is vertical. So it stands upright, and you flip the ball, and it hits the pins, and it makes the noise. And the idea is if you can catch it in certain little areas, if it goes in there, you get extra balls are delivered, you get more points, for example, and that way you hear the ring, and then more balls come into your tray, just like coins would in the slot machine, and then you keep twisting the knob until you wear out. So it's usually, it's ubiquitous. You don't see any drinking going on there because I haven't seen it on there, but there's a lot of smoking.
That's surprising.
Yeah,
I didn't see drinking. It's surprising.
I don't see now. There might have been. Yeah. I just didn't notice it because the cloud of smoke, and it is noisy with all of that.
All the balls.
But yeah, so that's what they saw, and they have horse racing.
I gotcha.
In certain areas, they call it the keibajo. And what's nice when you live in a city that has the keibajo is you have much lower city tax.
Like here. Yes. Yeah. What do we have here? Okay, last one. Stephen. With direct to Podbean. Will you? This is both of us. Will you be doing Vegas history shows upcoming? Well, I can absolutely assure you of that. We will. John, I think knows, but I'm going to confirm it now. Our most popular shows, by far, are when we discuss history.
Yeah.
The gambling and everything else, history of gambling. Yeah, big time.
Yeah.
But the gambling and stuff, that's handled by other podcasts, and they do a great job. We talk about the history and the unknowns and the weird and the wacky and what Vegas is, and tempered by our background as Las Vegas workers within the casino and hotel industry.
Which is now becoming historical. When
yes, it's becoming historical.
Been 20 years ago.
Yeah, there's got to be a plaque with John's name on it somewhere at the Venetian, near the bathroom.
Yeah, in the bathroom.
In the bathroom. But Stefan, maybe Stefan, Stephan. Stefan? I'm going to go with Stefan. We absolutely will. The Vegas is a wellspring of information, only a bit of which we have tapped. And we certainly will. Which brings us into the final subject. This is starting with the next podcast. Will be season 5.
Wow!
Right? Season 5.
How many seasons did Kim Kardashian have?
Oh, we can't compete.
Keeping up with.
No, we're not cute like they are. But season 5, what we're going to do is we're going to, COVID is affecting everybody negatively. It's hard to put out podcasts, or at least podcasts with new information and such. But John and I are going to, we're going to delve into the history and delve into different things about Vegas. Again, dive even deeper into our backgrounds as concierge and talk to you about the ins and outs of really what that is. And everything we can know. Hopefully we can have some guests. Not really a real good time to have guests right now. We can do Zoom guests and Skype and Duo off of Android, but honestly, I'm not real thrilled, with that. Yeah. I love talking to people in person, and I think it's really fun for them to come to the studio. So we will bring those in, new guests in as we can. One thing we are going to do, which is John's suggestion, is we have had a resurgence actually of people talking or asking us to do video for YouTube, because that's the format with which they would rather listen to our podcast, but they'd like to see us talking. And I said, oh, okay.
Well, we did that in the early days.
We did. When
we had Adam and Sam.
So we are going to cobble together our tech and get that ready. And so I will let you know when that happens. Probably not the next show of season 5, but it'll be at the Pod Bay Door Show. Just go to YouTube and put in the Pod Bay Door Show, and you'll see all of our audio right there. So if you want to listen to it anyway, go to the Pod Bay Door Show at YouTube, and then look forward to seeing our bright and shiny and old faces.
And you'll be able to see our body language.
Yeah, that's true. Yes. That's true. When John says those dirty things, you must see what he's doing with his hands.
Yes. No Jeffrey Tobin. We got to be careful, Jamie. No Jeffrey Tobin.
That's right.
What are you doing on Zoom meeting?
But as with all the other seasons, at the end of season 4, for me personally, I want to thank all of our listeners that stuck with us, and all of our new listeners that came on board at any time during the year. I am constantly amazed that people want to listen to our banter, and not only amazed, but I'm so thrilled, and I appreciate each and every one of you that does. And if there's ever any questions, ever any concerns, anything you want to add, or anything that you want us to talk about, please contact us any format: Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Podbean, and of course you can go directly to our Gmail, which is the podbaydoorlv@gmail.com, and send it over. But again,
and we'll let you know when we think it's safe for you to come back.
Yes.
In the meantime, we're your Las Vegas fix. So
yes, we will. We will definitely let you know, and we'll let you know the truth. But I again, so happy, so thrilled that everybody is, all of our listeners have stuck with us. And John,
Jamie?
you're a great partner. I've had a lot of fun. I can't believe it's season 5.
Yeah,
it's been a long time, but
we've known each other 21 years.
21 years. Good Lord, you're old, John.
Yes. And getting older. Like I said, I get to shop at Trader Joe's with all the old people.
At a special time.
Yes, at a special time.
You get to go at the Costco early time.
I get to go at the early time.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, John, thank you so much for 4 seasons. We're heading into number 5. Hopefully it'll be, we can report some really great news coming up. Everybody, I think I'll be able to get this out before New Year's Eve. Maybe. We'll see. If I miss it, everybody have a wonderful year. If I don't miss it, everybody have a safe and peaceful and wonderful New Year's Eve. And we really do hope that 2021 is... Oh,
yeah. What we can finally then say is hindsight is 2020.
Hindsight is 2020. and hopefully 2021 becomes a wonderful year for everybody. And I do hope the best for everybody. For you too, John. For John, this is Jamey. Happy New Year. 2021 is coming. Let's all make it great. We'll see you soon.